All right, welcome. Today we're going to tackle a really fascinating legal puzzle, one that has seriously stumped judges for centuries. And it all revolves around a single powerful question about a ship, its captain, and his family. So let's get into it and untangle this thing.
Now, on the surface, this seems like a total no-brainer, right? I mean, you have an expert captain who's so confident that he puts his own family on board. What could possibly be stronger proof that the ship is seaworthy? It just feels like common sense. But as you'll see, in a courtroom, common sense can get very, very complicated. This is the mystery we're going to solve.
So this isn't just some hypothetical brain teaser for law students. The seaworthy ship puzzle actually gets right to the heart of a fundamental rule of evidence, a rule that's designed to keep unreliable gossip and chatter out of the courtroom. And that rule is called hearsay.
Okay, so what is hearsay? Well, at its core, the rule is actually pretty simple. You can't have a witness get on the stand and testify about what someone else said outside of court to prove a point. You know, if you want to know what Bob saw, you've got to put Bob on the stand, not his friend who heard about it later. This is all to make sure that evidence can be properly tested through cross-examination.
So why the big fuss? Why do courts even have this rule? Well, it really boils down to three classic dangers you run into with any kind of secondhand information. Without the original speaker right there in court, you can't challenge their perception, their memory, or their sincerity. Were they mistaken? Did they forget some key details? Or were they just plain lying? The hearsay rule exists to avoid exactly these kinds of problems.
Okay, so far so good, right? But here's where things get tricky. What happens if a person doesn't say something directly, but their words or their actions imply it? This, my friends, is hearsay's awkward cousin, the implied assertion, and this is exactly where our sea captain puzzle is hiding.
Let's look at a super simple example to see the difference. If someone shouts, "There's a fire," that's a direct or express assertion. It's totally clear what they mean. But what if they shout, "Call the fire brigade" instead? See, they haven't actually said there's a fire, but they've strongly implied it. And the law has to figure out, should that implication be treated the same as hearsay?
Or think about this one. A witness hears someone who isn't in court shout, "Hello, Smith." Can that be used in court as evidence that Smith was actually there? I mean, the speaker didn't intend to declare that Smith was present. They just wanted to say hi. This exact kind of question created a massive legal debate that went on for years.
And believe me, for over 150 years, this wasn't just some minor disagreement. It was a full-blown battle of legal philosophies, with some of the most brilliant judges lining up on completely opposite sides, all trying to figure out if actions and these unintended statements should be banned as hearsay.
You can basically boil all these complex legal arguments down into two main camps. On one side, you've got the strict view. It was championed by a 19th century judge, Baron Park. He argued that an implied assertion carries all the same risks, bad memory, flawed perception, insincerity, as a direct statement. So for him, our captain's action, inadmissible hearsay. But on the other side, you've got the flexible view. This camp argues that actions are often more reliable. After all, actions speak louder than words, and a captain just wouldn't risk his family if he didn't genuinely believe the ship was safe.
And this quote right here, it gets right to the heart of that strict view. Baron Park's point was pretty simple. The captain could have been wrong. Maybe he missed a crucial flaw during his inspection. Maybe his judgment was off that day. Because we can't cross-examine the captain about his belief, his action of boarding the ship is just as unreliable as if he had simply said, "This ship is safe."
So what happened? Well, the result of this whole debate was pretty much chaos. For a century and a half, the law was just a tangled mess. Different courts came to totally different conclusions. The outcome of a case could completely flip depending on whether a judge followed the strict view or the flexible one, which, as you can imagine, led to some really unpredictable and confusing trials.
But then, finally, a modern solution started to emerge from this long and messy debate. Legislators came up with a clear, pretty elegant test that just cut right through all the confusion.
After all of that back and forth, the answer, it turns out, really boiled down to one single, powerful concept: the actor's intention. And here it is. This is the modern rule that many legal systems use now. It says that a statement or an action is only considered hearsay if the person's purpose was to communicate a specific fact. That key phrase is everything: intended to assert.
And you know what? This one little change, it changed everything. The debate wasn't about reliability anymore. Now, the court just asks a much simpler question. What did the person intend to do?
So all those unintended implications, like the casual, "Hello, Smith," or the captain boarding the ship, they are no longer hearsay, because the person wasn't trying to formally assert a fact. This gives us a clear, unifying principle at last.
Okay, so we've untangled all the legal theory. But why does this intellectual wrestling match actually matter in the real world? Let's bring it all back to our original puzzle.
So here we are, full circle. We're back where we started with our captain, his family, and the ship. But now we have a new tool to solve this puzzle, the intention test. So using this modern rule, we finally have our answer. The captain's action is admissible as evidence. And the reason why it all comes down to one thing: his intent. His purpose was to sail with his family. He wasn't standing on the dock trying to declare to the world, "I hereby assert this ship is seaworthy," right? His belief in the ship's safety was just an unintended implication of his action. And because of that, it's not hearsay.
And look, this isn't just some academic legal game. This rule has a huge, real-world impact on justice. It allows juries to hear powerful, common-sense evidence, like the captain's actions. It prevents important information from getting thrown out on an overly strict technicality. And it focuses the legal system on something we can all understand: what a person was actually trying to do.
So the legal system found a clear principle by focusing on human intention. But this does leave us with one last thought. While the rule itself might be clearer, does it actually make the truth any easier to find? After all, figuring out what someone truly intended, well, that's a whole other puzzle in itself. And that's a challenge that lies at the very heart of this search for justice.